You walk through life calmly, controlled, emotionally steady, and somehow people assume you are weak. But let someone raise their voice, interrupt people, dominate every conversation, stare others down like a threat. Suddenly, they get labeled confident. Modern society has started confusing aggression with strength, and the difference between the two is quietly destroying how people understand power. In this video, I want to show you something unsettling about human behavior, because most people are not reacting to confidence itself. They are reacting to emotional pressure. And once you see the difference, you start noticing it everywhere. In workplaces, relationships, social circles, politics, even in yourself. The strange part is that the loudest person in the room is often the least secure, while the calmest person is usually carrying the most control. You have probably experienced this before without fully understanding it. Maybe you spoke calmly during an argument while the other person became louder and more emotional, yet somehow people looked at them as the dominant one. Maybe you have been around someone who constantly interrupts, talks over people, boasts about themselves, tries to control every interaction, and people call them alpha. Or maybe you have noticed how quiet, self-assured people often get overlooked because they are not performing confidence in a dramatic enough way for modern attention spans. Social media made this even worse because now confidence is treated like theater. The algorithm rewards intensity, outrage, arrogance, confrontation, exaggerated certainty. The person screaming into a microphone gets more attention than the person speaking with calm precision. So millions of people slowly started associating emotional force with inner strength, even though they are completely different things. Real confidence is internal. Aggression is usually external. Confidence does not need constant validation because it already feels secure within itself. Aggression often needs witnesses. Confidence can sit in silence comfortably. Aggression becomes uncomfortable without control. One is grounded, the other is reactive. But because human beings naturally respond to pressure and intensity, the line between the two gets blurred. This confusion exists because the human brain still reacts emotionally before it reacts logically. Loudness feels powerful in the moment. Dominance feels convincing in the moment. Fast certainty feels intelligent in the moment. But feelings are not always reality. Someone slamming their hand on the table during a debate can appear strong while actually losing emotional control completely. Meanwhile, the person remaining calm can appear passive while actually demonstrating immense discipline. The strange thing is that emotional control has become underrated because it is less entertaining. Calm people do not create chaos. They do not constantly demand attention. They do not create viral moments every 5 seconds. So modern culture often overlooks one of the strongest traits a human being can possess: the ability to remain emotionally centered under pressure. Historically, true strength was often linked to restraint. Ancient philosophies repeatedly warned against emotional impulsiveness. Warriors were taught discipline before violence. Leaders were respected for composure under pressure, not emotional instability. Even in older communities, someone who panicked easily or reacted emotionally was often seen as unpredictable rather than powerful. But modern culture flipped something upside down. Now, emotional intensity gets mistaken for authenticity, and restraint gets mistaken for weakness. You can see this shift everywhere. In relationships, some people think jealousy proves passion. In leadership, some think intimidation proves competence. In friendships, some think the loudest personality automatically deserves respect. Even online, people often trust confidence over accuracy. Someone can speak complete nonsense with certainty and still attract followers because certainty itself feels convincing to the human mind. And this creates dangerous consequences because society starts rewarding the appearance of strength instead of actual strength. People begin copying aggressive behaviors because they think that is what confidence looks like. Young men especially absorb this constantly. They start believing dominance equals masculinity, that emotional suppression equals discipline, that arrogance equals self-respect. But underneath many aggressive personalities is fear, insecurity, emotional instability, or an obsession with control. A truly confident person usually does not need to constantly prove themselves. They do not need every room to submit to them. They are not destroyed by disagreement. They can listen without feeling threatened. They can admit uncertainty without collapsing internally. That is real strength, because insecurity hates vulnerability. Ego hates uncertainty. Weakness often hides behind performance. One of the biggest lies modern society tells people is that confidence must look intimidating. But often the most dangerous people emotionally are the ones who appear the most composed. Not dangerous in a violent sense, dangerous in the sense that they understand themselves. They are not controlled by every impulse or emotional reaction. They do not need to dominate every interaction because their identity is not fragile enough to require constant reinforcement. Think about the people who genuinely command respect when they walk into a room. Usually, they are not the loudest. They are present, calm, observant, measured. People feel their certainty without needing theatrics. Their energy does not scream for attention because it does not need to. Aggression also creates an illusion of certainty, and human beings are drawn to certainty because uncertainty creates anxiety. This is why extremely aggressive personalities often attract followers. They appear decisive, they appear fearless, but confidence without emotional intelligence quickly becomes recklessness. History is filled with charismatic people who confused dominance with wisdom and dragged others into destruction. Another uncomfortable truth is that some people are only aggressive because they are terrified of appearing weak. Every conversation becomes a competition. Every disagreement becomes a threat to identity. Every challenge feels personal, so they overcompensate constantly. They interrupt, they posture, they escalate. Not because they are strong, but because internally they feel unstable. Meanwhile, emotionally secure people often appear less dramatic because they are not fighting invisible internal battles every second. They are not trying to win existence itself through every interaction. They can relax, they can observe, they can laugh at themselves, they can let things go. The ability to stay calm when disrespected is often more powerful than the ability to intimidate people. Anyone can explode emotionally. Emotional reactions are instinctive, but emotional discipline requires awareness. It requires control over ego. It requires confidence strong enough to not collapse every time tension appears. Another insight people miss is that aggression often spreads insecurity into groups. One emotionally reactive person can poison an entire environment. Workplaces become tense. Relationships become unstable. Friend groups become performative. Everyone starts walking carefully around the emotionally explosive individual. That is not leadership. That is emotional hostage taking. And ironically, the more society glorifies aggression, the more genuinely confident people withdraw. Because calm people often do not enjoy constant emotional chaos, so the loudest personalities dominate public spaces, while emotionally intelligent people become quieter observers. This creates the illusion that aggression is more common than wisdom, when really wisdom just tends to speak less. One of the clearest signs of confidence is emotional flexibility, the ability to adapt without losing yourself. The ability to hear criticism without immediately becoming defensive. The ability to remain respectful without becoming submissive. Real confidence is balanced. Aggression usually swings between dominance and insecurity. Confidence is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself. Because once you understand this, you stop being impressed by loudness alone. You stop mistaking emotional volatility for passion. You stop assuming dominance means competence, and you begin recognizing how rare genuine emotional stability actually is. So what should someone do with this information? First, stop performing confidence and start building it internally. Learn how to tolerate discomfort without reacting impulsively. Learn how to speak calmly under pressure. Learn how to sit in silence without feeling invisible. Learn how to disagree without losing emotional control. These traits look simple, but they are incredibly rare. Second, pay attention to people who make others feel safe rather than small. Real confidence usually stabilizes environments. It does not destabilize them. Truly secure people rarely need to humiliate others to feel important. And finally, understand that calmness is not weakness. In many situations, calmness is power restrained. It is emotional intelligence operating under pressure. It is awareness choosing discipline over impulse. Anyone can become aggressive when emotions take over, but very few people can remain grounded when tension rises. The next time someone mistakes aggression for confidence, pay attention carefully, because the person losing emotional control is often revealing more weakness than strength, and the quiet person observing calmly might be the strongest person in the room.